Well, Kieran here has just got up. As you can tell, he was celebrating yesterday. He was actually celebrating about 5 hours before kick-off. To get a table, he went to the pub 5 hours early. Can I just say?
We were the last people to get in.
Right, okay. Okay.
We were late.
This is why this isn't going out till Friday morning. We are recording it on Thursday, but due to me working, it means I won't have time to do anything with it until Friday. Kieran here has managed to get up due to me banging on the door. It's 20 past 10 in the morning, so for Kieran this is early.
It's pretty disrespectful, actually.
It is AM. Kieran only knows AM in those single figure numbers like 1, 2, 3. Not used to it in double figures like 10, 11 and 12. Okay, we've got a game to talk about. Can you remember it at all with that alcohol flowing away? You know,
no.
No.
I mean, it probably doesn't help that I said that both of our penalty claims were both penalties.
Yes, yes. This shows how many he'd had before watching the game. I don't know whether you remember the game at all, Kieran.
I do.
Yeah, it might be worth watching a sort of a replay just to get the hang of which colour was which team, you know?
You were evidently quite excited by it because you were asleep when I got home.
Do you know, the interesting thing was, first of all, I was at work, okay, so for the first half. So I had a little computer on at the side dealing with ITV Hub that stops and starts, and you could hear the cheers down the road about 10 minutes before I saw the goal, you know. So I knew something was happening. It was a one that, you know, that I sat there waiting for as kickoff started, you know. Well, let's start with the big controversy, shall we? The penalty. Was it a penalty?
I mean, considering there are 2 footballs on the pitch, no.
No. The word is no. All right, it wasn't a penalty. Does it matter? Well, we don't think so. Now, yeah, the two balls on the pitch, I don't know, they didn't talk about that on TV, did they?
I don't think they wanted to.
No. Well, I looked up the rules, or somebody looked them up for me so I could read them. There was a ball about 2 meters. It was sort of kicked, yeah, with a mask on. About it, as Sterling was running up the side just before he turned into the box to get tripped. There was a ball just in front. And of course, there's loads of things going on about, the ref should have stopped it. Let me just tell you, should the ref have stopped it? Section 5.3, the laws of the game state, okay? An extra ball or other object or animal like a pig running across the field, enters the field of play during the match, the referee must stop play and restart with a drop ball only if it interferes with play. Unless the ball is going into the goal and the interference does not prevent a defending player playing the ball, the goal is awarded if the ball enters the goal, even if contact was made with the ball. In other words, no, the ref shouldn't have stopped play by the rules. It wasn't interfering with play. You only had 2 players running toward that ball. One was Sterling, and it certainly wasn't interfering with him. The other is a defender who didn't even have his eye on the ball. He had his eye on Sterling. I bet he didn't even know it was there.
I don't think that's what the Denmark players are complaining about, though, is it?
What were they complaining about?
Probably Sterling diving.
Yeah. But we're going to deal with that one first.
Yeah.
So just before anything, that second ball doesn't mean a thing. Forget that. That had nothing to do with the trip. Okay, the penalty. Let's be frank about this. Not a penalty. Number 2, Sterling anticipated it. It wasn't an obvious dive. I don't think he's that great an actor. So I don't think he acted it and dived. I think he anticipated it and maybe felt a brush against his leg and fell over. It wasn't a penalty. Okay. But VAR comes into play. Okay, isn't this what VAR is for? Denmark would say it is what VAR is for. England would say, no, the ref made a decision. That isn't what VAR is for. Isn't that what VAR is for?
Isn't this where we come back to clear and obvious errors?
Yeah. Wasn't it a clear and obvious error? It wasn't. I mean, I don't know anybody other than Sterling afterwards saying it was a penalty.
And me.
And you, having had one too many.
Well, the problem is that the defender does put his leg in, and he does look like he makes an attempt to try and win the ball, misses it, and it does go in front of Sterling's leg. It doesn't make contact, but does it suggest that...
It doesn't matter what it suggests. You could see...
But it suggests it's not a clear and obvious error because the defender has tried to make a tackle and has missed it.
I think that's ridiculous. That's
the reason why VAR has still allowed it.
Yeah, but I think
it's not clear and obvious in my opinion.
I think that's what VAR was for. When everybody in the world looks at that and says that is not a penalty, and VAR allows it. Okay, now. This is what a former German, Didi Hamann, played for Liverpool, didn't he? His words were maybe a bit harsh. I mean, I presume he's German. It sounds like he's got a Danish dad or something. It's a blatant dive. I think it's a disgraceful decision. Obviously doesn't like England, even though he was over here for a few years. Peter Schmeichel described the decision to award the penalty as a really big mistake. This will be debated for a long time, he said. And in a way, it's a hard one to take because it's not a penalty. Well, they might be debating it for a very long time in Denmark. We'll just forget it, won't we? In fact, yeah, we'll just hide that one under a carpet and get on with the final. And let's be frank about this. The next bit I'm coming to is if you take out, I'm not going to call it cheating because I don't think he did dive. I think he anticipated it, felt it, and he was just bundled over, sort of, and had nowhere to go. I don't think he dived as such. I don't think he thought, I'm going down, boom. I think he thought, I'm going down. And I'm not sure whether you called out. I'm not sure. I mean, not that it matters, but let's be frank about this. The dark arts shone in that game. Denmark were quite happy to slow the game back down by sticking a leg in all over the football pitch. They weren't innocent playing nice football. I can't remember how many fouls they committed and only picked up one yellow card. The shoving in the back, the sticking the leg in was all over the pitch. Now they can do that. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, you shouldn't do that. I'm a Wickham fan. We know how you do that. We know how to waste time at the end, like Italy will. But if you're going to play that game, well, that's what you get, isn't it?
Yeah. I noticed as soon as Grealish came on, within about the first 5 minutes from coming on, there's about 3 fouls on him.
Yeah,
there was Kane got buns over a lot of the time.
They slowed the game down by pushing, shoving, sticking the leg in. Now, if they got done for it by England, which they did, because let's be blunt about this, Kane was an expert at falling over. A lot of those free kicks weren't free kicks either. So Denmark was slowing the game down on points of the pitch that it didn't matter. Kane was falling over in parts of the pitch that did matter, and we could get decent free kicks. And Sterling fell over in a very good place to get a penalty. Now, if you take all of that out, you start handing out red cards to stop it. And if you don't, you get it. Now, Italy against Spain, we might come to that, I'm not sure we will. But Italy against Spain, in the last 21 minutes, the ball was in play for 9. Because of the way they cheat. And it is cheating, let's be frank about it. The diving, the pain, the agony, the rolling around, the stretches. The ball in play for 9 minutes out of the last 21. Now, we got to get ready for that, because in the last 21 minutes, if we're behind 1-0, we're going to have to know about that. You got to know about that. You got to get the hang of putting up with it, because that is what will happen. Wickham use it. All right. Kieran, were Denmark then naive?
In what way? Well, because
the way we picked up free kicks and penalties.
I'm not sure they were naive. There were times where they pressed when they probably shouldn't have done. They probably should have been a bit calmer in certain situations, as opposed to just going full throttle into a tackle. There was one I can remember. It was on I don't think Kane or anything. It was on the right wing, and Kane was just shielding the ball. He wasn't going anywhere, and one of them just came charging into the back of him. It's stuff like that. It was just a bit. It just didn't need to do. And as much as a free kick may not lead to anything, it still amounts to all the pressure they're being put under. Hence why we got our goal in the beginning and goal at the end, because they can't cope with it the whole time.
Was it just, did England win because we were more energetic and fit? And why weren't they, if that's the case?
The second half of extra time, Denmark looked shot, didn't they?
They had one less player on the pitch, mind you, remember.
Oh, I missed that bit.
You were up getting another pint, were you? Yeah, well, after all those amount of hours in the pub, I'm not surprised. I tell you, if I'd spent that much time in the pub, I wouldn't be sleeping all night. I'd be up and down. I'd just sort of put something down there with a pipe,
No, because at half time and 4 times and all that sort of thing, you had to go at some point in the game, because you were not getting in the toilet. All the queues.
Yeah,
but
there's probably a bloody river down in Wickham.
But when it was the second half of extra time,
the River Wye is very sort of greenish, brownish, I bet.
It's not down to me. They didn't look like there was any sort of fitness left, which is probably understandable considering at the stage they're at and the team they are. But I don't know. I think that may have been more of a mental thing, because we just kept the ball and parts around them, they couldn't deal with it.
Well, we'd made 1 sub, they'd made 6. And one of them got injured and had to go off.
Yeah, we made 1 sub by then, didn't we?
We'd made 1 sub.
We'd made 3, because Henderson and...
Oh, right. But one of their players had to go off after having made 6. And they didn't look any more energetic than us. In fact, they looked knackered. They look absolutely knackered.
Some of them that they brought off as well were quite surprising.
Yeah.
Because he brought off Damsgaard, who scored the goal. He brought off Stolberg, who looked a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
There was a few tactical decisions maybe that he got wrong.
Yeah. Well, their goal, Pickford. Pickford versus Schmeichel. Which one would you rather in goal? Gordon Bennett.
I do like the spelling of Schmeichel, by the way.
Yeah, okay. I've put Schmeikal. I wrote it so I could read it. Okay. Yeah, I have a skill doing this. I've written it so I could read it in the right. Otherwise, I'd be saying something completely different. Pickford is average. Schmeichel is brilliant.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a fair comment?
It's more than fair.
Pickford worries me. And sometimes when he makes that desperate error and they don't score, I think, oh, thank goodness we've got away with it again. One time in this game, we are not going to get away with it, are we? And now, is it going to be in the final?
I mean, the first 4 games, we were probably saying probably one of our best players because he was making saves, he was doing decent things with his feet. Last 2 games, he's been a bit. There was the one before any of the goals went in where he did the Carrius, didn't he? He rolled the ball out and gave it straight to them. Was
he in the pub with you before the game started? He looked wild.
He looked wild. I mean, and for the free kick, he made the wrong. I could be completely wrong because I'm not a goalkeeper and I have no idea. However, it does look like he's gone with the wrong hand.
Well, funny you should say that because I looked it up. Funny you should say that. Well, it seems that there was nothing he could do regarding the wall. He has no time to really get to it. So that's not his fault. The wall was in the right place. It was a great free kick. He'd got 4 England players in front of him, and next to them were Danish 3. The ball went over the England wall, but they were in the right place. He had got a long way to get, and he dives, and I've got to think about this with the camera. He dives like that. Now, this is where the bottom hand is there to stop the goalkeeping sort of, jargon that what they teach is your bottom hand is there to stop anything roughly from just above your head down to the ground. Anything above that, you go with the top hand because it can reach further. He went with his bottom hand. He used his wrong hand. That is what they teach, and they can't work out why he did it because that isn't what he learns. And if you actually look at where the ball is as it crosses the line, he would never reach it with his bottom hand to knock it out. He could have done with his top hand. That was a mistake by him. I mean, to be fair, his first goal is let in. On the other hand, you could say he's only had 9 shots to save. 1 or 2 of them were pretty good. So I don't know what you do with that.
I mean, at the end of the day, he's just gone with that hand through instinct. It's not like he's consciously made the decision.
Yeah, but if you train, train again. He's trained as a goalkeeper. That's what he does, isn't it?
And it's almost, in terms of which hand to go for, it's literally something you would show in a classroom as to provide an example. As you go with that hand, because he's almost dived past it as well. Because his hand's kind of having to.
I know the camera.
Don't know if it's going to work too well, but he's having to dive past it and then put his hand up here, and so it just doesn't work.
No. Now remember, he is picked also for how he kicks the ball and passes it out. That is a part of his game that he was picked for. I am going down and down and down. All the cameras go change anyway. He's picked for his kicking the ball. When I'm going to use the word out, I meant out onto the football pitch, not out the stadium, which he seems to be doing rather a lot. I'm not going to just pick fault with Pickford, can I say? But we are, you've got to talk about it. I can't just say he's brilliant. What a great goalkeeper. Why can't he kick the football all of a sudden?
He's got a nervous, isn't he?
He is. I wonder.
You can't.
I've done mental health first aid courses, and I have to say, I wonder. Is he anxious? Does he have anxiety? Does he Is there a? I mean, I'm not suggesting he's got a mental health issue. I mean, I'm not suggesting maybe he does. I don't know, but I'm not. But there is something going on up there, isn't there?
It's an interesting one because he's obviously been there before. He's been to a semi-final with England, and so he should be pretty calm in that situation. For someone like a Declan Rice, who hasn't been in that situation, you can understand him being nervous, and he evidently was because he wasn't very good. But you would have thought Pick would be one of those sort of players you could, put up to the expectation of a semi-final or even a quarter-final, because against Ukraine was pretty heart-stopping as well. So you do wonder. I'm not sure it's like anything like anxiety or anything like that. I think he's just nervous.
No, because it makes me nervous. I have to say. I mean, passing that round the back really makes me nervous.
I think it's nervous to do like the right. He doesn't want to be too. What's the word? Like too concealed and too like he wants to do something that's a bit proactive, and because throwing the ball out from the position he was in would have started a counter attack and may have led to a goal, which is what he wanted to do. Whereas in actual fact, he probably should have calmed down and just kept the ball and we should have passed around the back. He wants to be a bit more proactive.
You see, we can talk about the Italy-Spain in this because we've got to talk about playing Italy. And what worries me about playing Italy is will we be able to get the ball out, because Italy play a high line, and that messing around with that ball at the back worried me, because every time they passed it back to him, I was concerned. And we're not. I mean, how many goal kicks did they stand there in that box and then he belted it? Because every time he belts it, we lose the ball. But we couldn't pass the ball back. We couldn't get the ball out, could we? It just ended up being kicked around till it went back to him to belt it. There was something, that's what worries me. Italy's high line. We will not be able to play that ball out. We never did it at all. He ended up just belting it. And half the time it either went directly to them or it was a throw-in.
Yeah. I suppose passing out the back is more a thing to do with your centre backs and CDMs and your fullbacks, as opposed to the goalkeeper. So the goalkeeper can give the first ball, but then supposedly they're not supposed to be involved in the rest of it. So were the fullbacks and the CDMs good enough? So I feel like Maguire and Stones, I thought they were very decent.
Yeah. Well, I would say actually, if you watch the match again, I'm sure you're not going to, but if you do, I think this is where you said about Rice. We are going to be positive as well, I promise, but this is where Rice comes into play, because he spent the whole game with his back to their goal, which meant every time he got the ball, there was only one direction that ball was going, and that was back. He was never, whereas Phillips was always on the turn. So the ball came to him and he was facing the right direction. If you look at Rice, he only ever had his back to their goal. There was only one direction for that ball. Every time he got the ball to his feet, it went backwards. Italy are not as naive, and Italy can be faster and are better. And I would be really worried about that. And I think, is this where Mr. Captain comes into play?
Does he? Can you do that in the last game? It would be like starting Grealish for the first time, starting Henderson for the first time, flipping out, knock on wood, start a new goalkeeper. I'm not sure you can do that. You have to. It will be the same team, I think,
because Denmark played a 3-4-3, so they could use the wing backs. England played 4 at the back, but Rice played so deep that he actually turned it into a 5 at the back most of the time. And can I just say that at the second half, he brought Phillips back so that Shaw could get further up front. That worked, other than playing Rice at the back. it meant we could never get the ball out. Because he was never
no one in front.
And in the end, your two centre backs, the ball does go along that line looking for a hole. And if one of your four will never pass it forward, they know where the ball's going.
But it was commonly Maguire who was trying to thread a ball through two lines of defence from Denmark.
Yeah.
And doing that, you have to be, I'm not saying he didn't do it all the time, but you have to be extremely, extremely good. And he did it a couple of times, but against Italy, I doubt you'd be able to do it at all. Italy do play through the back, don't they?
Italy do. They've sometimes, but yes, they do.
That'll be interesting to see if he changes. Southgate.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on, sort of. Okay, we've put certain players that bothered me down. Let's go looking up. Apart from the first 10 minutes, what do you reckon to Saka then? He looked nervous to start with.
He did. He went brought up into the game though, didn't he? He was a bit more of a menace than Sterling was, it felt like. Sterling's work rate was very good. His shooting was trash.
It was.
But Saka's work rate as well was very decent. Not sure he created too much. He created the goal, yes. But then that was pretty good. But then as well, that was a very good ball from Kane to thread him through. Is that front three going to be the front three that we play against Italy? It's going to be Kane and Sterling. But do you play Saka?
Or Foden? He won't play Grealish. Grealish is a wild card. And that's right in his case.
Yeah, he doesn't play Grealish. Would he play... He obviously won't play Sancho because it's never going to happen.
Nope.
So it is between Saka and Foden. And I feel like I'm not sure Saka is the type of player for Italy, because he's quite similar to Sterling in a lot of ways, and he's obviously going to play Sterling, but I think Foden could be able to unlock a door that potentially Saka wouldn't be able to. But then Foden is extremely young, but then Saka's even younger. So it's a difficult one. You can literally flip a coin, I think.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be too worried either way, really. And he will play Sterling, and he will play. Okay. Do you know what? He could get the golden boot. He's not
if
far
if he scores two, even one,
and he's equal. Yeah, he can have the left boot.
Who else was Kyle Walker? Who we've slayed in the past.
Yeah, we put him down.
Very good.
It's fine to put them down if they're not very good in the games.
Yeah.
I think we're not sending him nasty messages online or threatening to kill his wife. And if you're not allowed to make comments, that's daft. And we will make good comments. And the good comment was, I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Is the honest truth. I think he came alive.
A few times that Denmark looked to be either in a 2-on-1 or a 1-on-1, and he just came out of nowhere and just completely blocked them off.
Yeah, he wasn't just fast, because so what? He has to be able to play football, and he did.
Yeah.
And I thought he was excellent. And I think, a good pat on the back, and I would think that put a smile on his face, and he's ready for the final after that.
Yeah. You'll be confident after that, won't you?
Yeah. And Shaw?
He was all right. He provided more of a fullback threat than we had done in the first 3 games. And I think that's what we were realistically after. He may not have been, stand out, exciting all the time, but he was decent, I feel like, and his defending was decent, as was Maguire in particular. I thought he was excellent, which is really weird to say. And Stones was okay. He did his job. So, defence-wise, I think we were very solid. maybe apart from Pickford, but then who else did we have in there? Mount looked a bit like he was missing a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah, he just seemed a bit. Yeah, he seemed to be in the right place quite often, but it never finished.
No, it never flowed particularly.
It never was that good last ball.
No.
It never seemed to happen. He seemed to look pretty lively. He picked the ball up a lot, did lots of things, but it never finished.
No. Which is a bit of a shame, because if he'd had a very decent game, then he'd be one that would be boosted by having lots of confidence going into the final, because he is going to start.
He will start. And I don't think he needs to worry. I think
actually, the one case in which he doesn't start is if we do go three at the back.
Yes.
Which
he
is
might
a big
play that,
possibility,
of course.
but he could do that.
Yeah.
Mount and Phillips.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be pretty happy with that, I think. But he won't do that because he hasn't tried and tested it.
No. Well, what's interesting is what I wrote down right at the beginning about Denmark. And that was, I put new manager in July. They've got good centre backs. Were we right? Was I right? Were their centre backs pretty good?
They're pretty solid.
Yeah. Solid midfield and flying fullbacks.
Fullbacks flying.
They looked shattered. They weren't flying. Probably play 4 at the back. No, they play 3. I put Ericsson playmaker and goal scorer. Well, they had a bit of a problem with that. And I put number 9, Braithwaite is fast. I think
he looked so pretty good most of the game, I thought. He was causing us problems. Whether he created anything or not, he potentially didn't, but he kept people busy.
Remember, this is what I wrote before the tournament, okay? I put Paulson is good in the air.
Didn't really see it.
No. Wind.
I
put wind. Is that right?
Wind injuries.
Yeah, so he might not play. But that he might.
Didn't see any wind.
No, I didn't see any wind. There was no wind. And Dolberg, I put as he's had a crap season.
He looks quite good.
Yeah, which is why we say don't buy people on international form, because he really hasn't looked very good during the season, and so that might have been a one-off dodgy. Now, just Italy and Spain, just touching on, because we need to talk about Italy. I put down Spain. You see, everybody talks about, blah, 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 but they drew 0-0 with Sweden. They drew 1-1 with Poland. Slovakia, they beat 5-0. Croatia, they beat 5-3. Switzerland, they won on penalties. And in Italy, they lost on penalties. That's not a great winning team. Not when you look at what Italy have had to do. And I didn't write that down, but they had to conquer, They've had a few decent, like Poland, Belgium.
They beat Switzerland 3-0 in their group. They beat Turkey 3-0 in their group.
I mean, they had it. They've had to knock out a few en route, and they did it. And I've put for Italy, for the future, strong favourites for this group.
Yes.
That was Group A. Embarrassing failure to qualify in 2018 World Cup. They've won the last 5. This team is not Italy as we know it. They are not defensive boring. They play free-flowing football. Mancini had just taken 3 players and built his team around them. Jorginho, Verratti and Barella. Midfield and runs the team. The midfield run the team. The question is up front. Immobile plays for Lazio in Serie A. Is top, but not international, and played in Spain and Germany, and again has not been successful. They will be playing 3 games at home. Other choice is Belotti, and he won't use both. I think I've got that pretty good.
Yeah, that's what Immobile set the world on fire, is he?
No,
He scored one or two, but there's no more than that.
yeah,
Is it?
he's not international and played in Spain and Germany, but not successful.
I think that's the reason that people don't buy him, is because he's scored hats for Lazio, and yet in the other countries played, he hasn't done very well, and Italy doesn't do very well. So evidently people do their analysis and see that he wouldn't be good if people signed him, because he scores more than anyone else.
Right, we've got 5 minutes, 5 more minutes only. Yeah, I mean, are we worried? Well,
a bit.
Italy versus England, was it always going to be that as a final? I wondered after Scotland whether it was always going to be Italy versus England, because Gareth Southgate, I think the closest I could name him is Mourinho. In the style, it wouldn't work in Premier League because people would get peed off with it. It does work in a 7-game knockout. He's got over the semi-final hurdle, but are England a little Italy? And funnily enough, you can go to the restaurant in London, Little Italy, and it's a fine combination of dining, great food, exceptional wine, and it is very popular. So are England a great bit of dining and brilliant wine, or are we from the local Pizza Hut? Okay,
Yeah.
So which are we? A brilliant restaurant, great, exceptional wine, or are we a Pizza Hut?
Can we be like a Pizza Express? Not quite a Pizza Hut, but we're a little bit better than that.
Pizza Express, Papa John's. I like theirs. I like theirs.
Yeah. You're getting paid to say that.
Yeah. I'm going to go and try and get a job in a minute.
Do
we have enough? Do we have enough?
I hope so.
I don't see why not.
No, I think if we turn up and we play as well, if this could be in England versus Germany, this could be it again. It could be something that happens very similar to that game, and I hope it is. But from a pessimistic point of view, Italy.
Why not?
But the problem is that Italy do seem to be like this, almost the same as us in terms of how they play, but just a little bit better.
But their strikers aren't as good. But their defence is far is better.
Chiellini and Bonucci are just absolute tanks.
So what we're saying is Sterling, dive.
Yeah.
Sterling, dive. We're happy for you to dive.
Harry, go and get your free kicks from outside the box.
And for goodness sake, don't go to penalties.
No,
that whole thing against Spain, where he goes up having a laugh, putting his hands around him, giving him a cuddle and all that, was brilliant. Was absolutely brilliant. Talk about, he'd won the penalties by then, hadn't he? There was no point taking them. He'd won.
He didn't even take one.
No. But what a laugh. Isn't this a good joke? Oh, come here. Oh, don't worry. I know you've already lost, but we haven't kicked the ball yet. But don't worry. Flip the coin. It's heads. Don't even bother looking at it. We know it's heads.
Did you see what Alba did after they flipped the coin? Yeah. So the first time they flipped the coin was for what end it was going to be. And Italy won it, so it was at the Italian end. And Alba, Spain's captain, was like, "What do you mean? It's that end." And then Chiellini is just like, "You flipping what, mate?" He's just laughing in his face, like so much. It was hilarious.
I thought
it was class.
He'd won it. The captain had given his team.
Sorry, I didn't mean to punch you, by the way.
No, it's all right. I'm going to an osteopath in a minute. um, it was brilliant, and you have to say we'll finish on a really emotional point. That poor bloke that plays for Spain that missed his penalty.
No, Morata.
I don't think. I think the whole of the world knew he was going to miss his penalty, and I think so did he. And I think, hand on heart, not because there's just a pain literally in there, which is why I'm going to the osteopath in there. But hand on heart, I think the whole world felt his pain, didn't they? And don't any of you dare in Spain send nasty comments. That bloke needs sympathy, and in fact, probably needs distance to get over. Will he ever get over it? Or will he be a brilliant manager playing very negative football for Spain in the future after that, and he'll take them to the finals?
It'll be very nice.
A bit like Gareth, yeah.
A bit like Gareth.
A bit like Gareth.
Let's hope so. No, I do feel sorry for Morata. Like, he doesn't deserve to miss all the things he does miss, because he is good.
It even scored the goal.
He scored the goal that was amazing.
Who let him take the penalty? I mean,
Muppet.
Should never have let him take the penalty. Kieran, we've got one more. One left. One more of these left. And we'll bring that out Monday if Kieran has survived the pub.
I'm not going to the pub.
Why?
Going to
when they let you back?
No, because we'll have to get there for like 12 in the morning.
Right, okay. So Kieran isn't going to the pub. So we will bring this out on Monday at some point, I think. Monday, we'll say Monday or Tuesday, maybe when we've got over the celebration. Give us your prediction.
Are you still winning the predictions?
I can't remember what we said about
are.
this one. It was 3-2, and I'm going to have to check these two semis.
I think I said 2-0 England. 2-1 to England after extra time.
You reckon 2-1 to England, extra time? Well, I'm just looking up what I actually did say, because I think it will be, excuse the noise, because it will start playing it, but I need to look it up, because I want to see.
No, he didn't even put it.
Oh, no. Didn't even put it. That's a nuisance. I've listened to that. You said 2 what?
I said 2-1.
2-1.
2-0. Oh, for this game, 2-1. 2-1 after extra time.
Well, I'm going for 1-0, and it's going to be a dive. A dive. And so it's Henderson dive, and he takes the penalty. He pushes Kane away.
There's no power.
So with that, we'll say goodbye with just one left. One left. One left.
Wrong hand.
One left. And we'll see you next time.